Yo, what up guys, Breeze5D here, and I have a champion guide for you right now. From the title you can see this is from the Ox faction and his name is Dhukk Battles, a champion that has been in the game since 2001 in the month of January, sometime in January. That's when he was released into the game, and since then he has not been quite popular as you expect a debuffer to be, because there are many alternatives that a lot of players use instead of him. So in this video I'm going to be telling you how you can use Dhukk Battles, places where you can shine, and why he's not one of the popular debuffers in Raid Shadow Legends. So I'll be showing you my build, my full guide, and running me some dungeon content to see how he actually performs in your team, which role he works for. Alright, the first thing you should know that since he is a debuffer based on defense, debuffers are those champions in Raid who are just there to add debuff to the enemies to allow your allies hit a little bit harder or control and all that stuff. So he brings two debuffs to the team that is important in every Raid Shadow Legends battle, whether you're doing PvE or PvP content. So the two debuffs that is kind of important is decrease defense and decrease attack. Now a lot of players or a lot of debuffers in Raid will place these two debuffs or more without any condition, but the reason why Dhukk Battles is not quite popular is because his decreased defense has a condition. So besides you just coming in there, start going to the battle and placing it, no, he has to crit. That means he has to hit crit rate on that champion before this decreased defense can be placed. Now for the decreased attack, there is no condition, it will be placed. It is a 75% chance. When you book it, it will be a 100% chance to place decreased attack on the enemies. But if you do not build this champion with 100% crit, if you build him with 98%, like 70%, there's a chance that you might not crit. There is always that possibility that if it's a negative affinity, he will definitely get a weak hit, and there's that 3% chance that even when you have the high crit rate, you might still get that 3% chance of getting resisted. So that's always there, right? So that's the reason why it's not that popular, in my opinion, because this crit, it's a lot of people don't want to build their debuffers with crit rate. That's just the main thing. A lot of debuffers wants to go full accuracy and just go in there and land their debuff. They are not there for damage and all that stuff. But because you're building this champion with 100% crit rate, guess what? You might as well capitalize on that and add some damage to him. So what else does it bring to the battle? People do find this decreased accuracy a little bit useful, but I found this decreased accuracy annoying, because in the content I built him for, which is faction wars to be specific, I think that boss kind of sends whatever debuffs you have on him back to your to your allies, right? And whatever buffs you have on yourself, he steals it. So that's why this decreased accuracy can be a double-edged sword if you're not careful about it. And since it's on the A1, he will most likely land it when you have enough accuracy to on the boss, and the boss will just send that decreased accuracy back to you, and you're there suffering to land debuff. So that's something to watch out for right there. It could be good for some content like the Iron Twins, where it's decreased accuracy can be useful for that content, and decreased attack also can be useful. All right, on the A3, this is one that I also did not like for faction wars, because the boss also steals this buff. What does he steal? He steals that reflect damage and unkillable, right? That faction war boss on 21 steals these two buffs, and then it's a bad one for me. Bad battle right there, because I'll be reflecting the damage I'm hitting to the boss back to my allies. So that's something to watch out for. That means you might need the resistance team to go with Dhukk Battles, but if you're running in general dungeon content, you don't have to worry about this buff being stolen. Instead, this reflect damage will even kill some allies who hit you extremely hard, so it could be useful, especially when he provokes them right there. He has the provoke debuff for 1 turn on the target enemy, also has a 75% chance of placing provoke debuff for 1 turn on 2 random enemies. So this is not a valuable way of controlling the enemies, since it's random. You usually want somebody who can do provoke AoE, but you can't have a debuffer who does 100% debuffs and then provokes 100%. No, this is just an extra skill they added to him to make him a little bit easier to use, I guess. And provoke is important for dungeon content also, so the enemy waves, once they are provoked, they will have no choice but to use their A1s. But since it's only 3 enemies out of the 5 that will be provoked, it still helps you a little bit so your allies don't take so much damage. So it's not an entirely useless skill right there. So is it worth the books? I think this A2 is the one that is definitely worth the books. For this provoke, you can always use it once in battle and just forget about it. So on the A1, I've talked about it. This aura is in faction crypt, 31% increased defense on all your allies. So you want Dhukk DPS to be in the leader slot in faction wars. Definitely, I think he's the champion with the highest decreased defense. I mean, the highest defense and ally increase in faction wars, at least in the categories of epics. So that's Dhukk DPS. I'll be showing you how I currently built him. First of all, let's head over to my champion and show his sets. So since this champion is a debuffer, there is a common thing you see in Raid Shadow Legends. All debuffers are usually built with high accuracy. Depending on the content where you're using them, don't just go in there and building with like 400 accuracy when the Dragon 20 you're trying to beat actually requires 200 accuracy. So depending on the content you're beating or you're trying to beat, make sure you build his accuracy according to that content. I built this champion for maybe Doom Tower secret rooms, and originally it was for faction wars. So I left his accuracy at around that 200 range right there. Accuracy 200, 213, but definitely you need about 230 to 250 for that type of dungeon. 20 to 25 content, he will work in all those areas. So also, I talked about resistance. This resistance might be enough for faction wars. The faction war boss 21, like I said, I don't want his boss stolen, right? So I just decided to put this type of resistance. You need about 305 or 320 resistance for that faction war 21 boss, so it doesn't steal that reflect damage or stuff. So you can even turn off that skill because it's not that important for that particular faction war 21. But if you do have the resistance, Dhukk DPS might not get that decreased accuracy on him and unable to land his decreased defense. So that's something to watch out for. So this is like a specific faction war build that I built him for. High HP, a little bit closer to 50k, and high defense closer to 4k, as high as you can go. Of course, debuffers in general needs to be one of the fastest champion in your team before your damage dealers can go. So a little bit of 200, a little bit of above 200 speed is fine. So your debuffers who are around 200 or 180 can then take their turn after he has placed the decreased defense especially. So crit rate is important on this champion if you want to go right there. 99%, 100% is what you're aiming for, because any champion who you don't land that crit on will not get that decreased defense. So that's the main reason why a lot of people don't use this champion in battle. So since I decided to get that crit rate, we might as well add a crit damage glove and amulet, right, to let him do some damage. So this champion does hit hard for those dungeon 20 content, for those faction war 21 content, he does hit hard. But if you talk about other higher places like Doom Tower hard, and you have Lydia and other people who are doing a better job as a debuffer than he will ever do. So early game players build Dhukk DPS for the purpose of Dragon and other general content, because in raid there are debuffers who have spirit affinity, debuffers like War Maiden who have force affinity, debuffers who have magic affinity like Dhukk DPS. So you usually want a debuffer in every affinity, or you just go with Madam Series, who is a void affinity debuffer, but she has her decreased defense on a 4-turn cooldown, which is not ideal. So the main reason why you might want to build Dhukk DPS is because there are some content in raid where you simply need a magic affinity debuffer, where your what do you call this now, this other decreased defense champion, not Terrell, I always forget this champion's name. The spirit affinity decreased defense champion might not serve that purpose. I really have to get him right, because they usually compare him to this champion. That's him right there. Can never remember his name because maybe I don't use him anymore in a lot of content. Where is he? Close the vault. Stagnite. Yes. So a lot of people might prefer Stagnite over him because he doesn't have any condition to place his decreased defense. So he's often compared to Stagnite, but the truth is Stagnite is better. I don't know how, I don't know why. It's just he's easier to build, full accuracy, you don't need crit rate, there's no condition. He's high HP. Check out his base stat HP right there, even though his damage is actually based on attack. A good hitting champion, Stagnite, that has been in the game a long time. I guess maybe a lot of people have. I'm not trying to compare them, I'm just saying if you already built Stagnite, you might not need to build Dhukk the Pierce. But when you come to faction wars or some specific content that says you must or you required to use magic affinity decrease defense champion, or you must use somebody like from this faction of the Orcs, then Dhukk the Pierce comes in there and serve that purpose. So that's special reasons why you might want to build them. If you have a Stagnite, you have a War Maiden already built 56, you might not need to build Dhukk the Pierce until that special purpose comes along where he's the only champion that can serve it. And that's, for my own purpose, it was faction wars. So I'm not doing this guide to tell you that he's the best decrease defense champion and you should choose him over just replace him with Terrell for your clan boss. No, I've not really seen him being used in the clan boss a lot, despite him having decrease defense and decrease attack, which are two debuffs that you need there. We usually don't use champions like that who has decrease attack on a 3-turn cooldown, right? We will need an AoE1 decrease attack for that type of content, but if you can land it on the AoE1 and AoE2, it still works. So in the early game, I guess if you have no choice, you can put this Dhukk the Pierce into the clan boss, but he doesn't belong there. He belongs in good accuracy sets, so he can land his debuffs with ease and have the high speed to do it. Which set is best to put on Dhukk the Pierce? You can see me going with a random set right there because I was trying to put damage, accuracy, resistance, crit rate, crit damage. I was trying to put too much stats on him, HP and defense also. But if you just want to go straight to accuracy and speed, that's the best way to go. Perception set will achieve that for you right there. So that's one set that I would recommend right there, perception set. If you're new to Raid, you're just coming, you've not found a lot of perception gear, you might want to start with accuracy set right there. It works just fine. Of course, you can mix it with speed to make him be one of the fastest champion. The buffer needs to be faster than your nukers in general, so you might want to mix both of them to get those stats you need. Remember, he's a defensive based champion and he'll be placing provoke on 3 enemies, so you don't want him to be squishy, right? You want your debuffers to land their debuff and take turns so that it will be available in the next wave. Which other sets is useful for Dhukk the Pierce if you're going to run him in early game content? For faction wars, lifesteal is extremely important if you don't want to rely on healers and all that, right? So lifesteal is the best way to go. But I have him built in a different way because I have a healer for that faction, or I have a tankier champion who can soak up the damage. So lifesteal works fine in the early game if you're going to be running him in faction war 2021 right there. So that's another set that you can put on him if you don't care that much about the accuracy but more about survivor. So it's based on defense. Which other sets can we put on him? Provoke, maybe. He's a defensive stalwart if you're building him for the clan boss, but generally I just prefer to go speed, accuracy set, perception, or maybe even resilience. There are options to go. The main thing is to get the stats that you actually need. So it's quite flexible. It's not a champion that is picky. I went towards those many stats because I can. You only need 2 stats on Dhukk the Pierce, accuracy and speed. Then you can look for defense and HP and other good stuff. Alright, that's the set I would recommend to build on Dhukk the Pierce. If I head over to the masteries, you see me that I don't even have masteries on this champion. I only did the bare minimum that I needed to boost his crit rate a little bit and boost his accuracy a little bit. Yes, this champion is easy to get masteries on if he's that important for you. Remember, I used him in faction wars, so I didn't want to get masteries on him. Although it does help to get masteries on faction 1 champions, but he will work just normal fine. There are no special he doesn't need any special masteries. You're going towards the War Master mastery right there, down there. That's the way to go. And of course on the accuracy tree, you're adding more accuracy, a little bit of Lore of Steel, coming down to increasing the duration of your debuffs. You can increase the duration of that decrease attack and decrease defense that you land on your enemies, and that's the way to go. You can then select any other one, maybe life drinker, something like that. So it's your choice. I don't see him benefiting from the defense tree, but I've seen some people who is using him for maybe arena going towards this defense tree instead of offense. But this is the general build for Dhukk DPS. He's not a champion that requires special masteries, so this mastery is usually for debuffers in general, to just increase the duration of those their debuffs, right? That's the main thing, and then do a little bit of damage and get some healing back from War Master procs, so they can contribute a little bit to the damage. This champion does have high damage. Yes, he does have high damage, so I'm gonna be taking him into some content so we can test him out. For blessing, I went towards the cruelty blessing, because it could be reducing the defense of bosses when it's actually a long battle like that faction war battle is. This champion will work as a good champion also in the what do you call this content now, Hydra. If you don't have any decreased defense champion, or if the affinity is against Stagnite, you can sub it in place of Stagnite and get that battle done. So let me test him in dungeon 20 content, which is positive affinity. You can see from this dungeon 20, Stagnite will be a negative affinity for this content. So that's the best time to bring in War Maiden, or you bring in your trusty Dhukk DPS. So I won't lie, this is not a champion I used often on my account, and I've put together this free to play friendly, beginner friendly team that is supposed to show us how or what he brings to the team. So he's just there to place decrease defense, decrease attack, and let the other champions go to town. So you might need a reviver to go along with him, because once that provoke lands, he might be taking more damage than he's actually supposed to. It will be a fast battle, I guess, but I'll not run it all the way to the end. I just want to see that decrease attack everywhere. So he did crit. He got it on everybody. If he does not crit, he will miss it on some people. That's the provoke right there on 3 enemies also. So Apothecary will not do a heal. She must use her A1 right now, or his A1. Apothecary A1. So that's the importance of having that provoke right there in battle. And check out those hits, 20k hit on the A1. I didn't actually take a look at the A2, how much damage it did, but can we get it to come around back? That's it, 21k, 28k. So I didn't build him with like 300k crit damage, but it's still useful damage that can add and help your nukers take down enemies faster. Alright, I'll end the battle there. I'll not run it all the way to the end. I just wanted to showcase Dhukk DPS in this video for you and tell you where you can use him. Number 1 area I built him for faction wars. If you're new to raid, you don't have any decreased defense champion or decreased attack that lands it at the same time, and you're running dungeon 20 to 25 content, he can help your allies take less damage by making sure that decreased attack and decreased defense stays on the enemies, especially when it is against some affinity where your other debuffers cannot work. But once you get champions like Lydia and other champions who plays decreased defense and weaken, this champion Stagnite and Dhukk DPS kind of take a back seat and they fall back into the faction wars where they belong. So I did bring him out of my vault just because of this video, but since I no longer use him for that role of a decreased defense champion, he goes back where he belongs in my team, which is the vault. So from the vault, he can still fight in faction war for me, and I'll let you know that's the only content I use him right now in raid. So you decide if you're going to be building this champion. You're not going to regret it and say you regret using the champion, you never use him anywhere. He's still useful in some Doom Tower faction and some Doom Tower rooms, secret rooms that will say use epics or use champion from a specific faction, or one of those special dungeons that will say use a special champion from one faction. So that's the places where he can be your only decreased defense champion and is useful for that content. So I wouldn't say I regret take him into 60. You might leave him on 50, test him out a little bit and see whether he can help your team, place that decreased defense, place that decreased attack, and carry you all the way to the end. But I wanted him to have that War Master, that's why I took him to 60, and it's totally worth the books and everything. I don't regret him at all. Alright, that's all I have for you right now in this champion showcase for Dhukk DPS, a champion who helped me in the early game. I already had Stagnite, so he wasn't that crucial to my development of my team. But if you're just obtaining this champion, like I said, check out where he works, the right affinity, sub others out, bring him in so he can help you a little bit out, and then get that crit rate to 100%, else you will not enjoy this champion. All right. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Dhukk the Pierce, if you think he's still valuable in Raid Shadow Legends in 2023, or he has been power crept like many champions who are released back in 2021. And does he need a buff or something? I don't think so. He is perfect just the way he is. It's just a lot of people prefer to use other debuffers than him. Alright, I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to hit the like in this video if it helps you out, and suggest below any other champions you want me to spotlight or feature in this channel, and I'll be sure to get to them and show you how I use them, build them, and all that good stuff. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe for daily Raid Shadow Legends content from me. Later guys.